set, a new needle. I bought a smaller needle. I had a 0.5, which came with the airbrush. I went ahead and got a 0.35, and what that does, it gives you a much smaller pattern. So the Blue Sinanju is actually the first kit that I use with the 0.35. A few things I've noticed about it. I do have to use more air pressure because it's a smaller opening, which I'm fine with. I use a lot less paint, get the same effect, and I can control my shading much easier. It's much simpler to get the effects I want. So I'm just going through all these individual parts with the biggest brush that will fit within that part, like this. And this video maybe have to be broken up into 2 parts depending on how long this takes. So this may be part 1, part 2. I'm not sure. We'll find out when I go to upload it. So that's pretty good. And then the tip, again, I get the smallest brush I have. Don't think it's going to fit all the way through, but we'll see. So I'm just going to put it in there and give it a couple turns, just like that, guys. You can see that. Again, just put the next size brush, put it in there. Okay, so that's pretty much it for cleaning it. What I will do sometimes, if it's been sitting around for a long time, this is probably a good example where I probably should have done that. After I'm done with my kit and I know it's going to be a while before I airbrush, I'll take it all apart like this, I'll put in some thinner, and I'll just let it sit. Now, it's okay to do that once in a while, but there are some seals with inside the airbrush. There's a little itty-bitty seal within here. And if you let it sit in thinner too long, eventually it will break down and you'll have to replace it. And like with anything, I think that little seal is like $5 or $6. It's crazy. It's like the tiniest little thing, but it's way expensive for what it is. Okay, so now we're going to start putting this guy back together. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take this big part right here. And every airbrush is different, obviously. This is my airbrush, and this is how mine goes together. So look at your instructions as far as how yours goes back together. Don't take my word for it. So I'm going to put the tip back together. There's 3 parts. Just like that. See, it's all shiny, clean, looks brand new. This little tip right here where the needle comes out, it's going to go back inside there. Like so. It just sits in there, doesn't screw or anything. That whole assembly goes on the front right here. And if it doesn't feel like it's going to go on, don't force it. Take it off, back it off. You may be cross-threading your threads, and if you do that, well, you'll be buying yourself a new airbrush. Again, I don't have an airbrush wrench, so I'm just going to use my pliers here. And don't over tighten it, just give it a little, make sure it's snug. That's the front end. Next part is we're going to put the trigger in. Just like that. And it's going to be floppy. Now, a very important step when you're doing your airbrush, and excuse me, I may have to move my camera for a second, 1 second, to get to what I need. I should have had this out before. Is the all-important airbrush oil. This stuff is expensive for what it is, but this little tube will last you forever. Take your needle, and I just kind of go down the whole length of it. It's probably overkill, but it's not going to hurt your paint. It's not going to hurt anything. And now this is where you have to be super careful. Well, hold on, before I do that. Yeah, a few other steps first, sorry. This guy right here with this little trigger. This is kind of tricky on the iWadi. You kind of have to put it in at an angle. So that this little part right, let me get the needle, right there sticks up and hits against the trigger. So now that that's in, I can take this part I had, goes over that, and screws in. Oops. Forgot another step. Sorry guys, I do this every time. I've done this, I don't know, 100 times, but I always forget certain things. Spring goes on first. Then this guy, it just screws in, just tighten, hand tighten it. Now I got the down action right there, and I got the spring action there. Now the needle with the oil on it, be very careful when putting this in. Make sure you're going straight. And with that oil on it, just give it a little turn. Kind of help spread it out. And it should slide in very smoothly. If you feel any resistance at all, stop what you're doing and pull it out. Next is this little keeper, and this I'll explain later. This comes important when I show you how I spray my future top coat. That's a very important adjustment that I use when I do future. Back goes on, and then your cap. There you have it. Freshly cleaned airbrush, ready to go. And what I always do, I turn the air compressor back on. After I'm done cleaning it, just load it up with some lacquer thinner, another squirt bottle. And when you're cleaning it with all those brushes, you may get some debris. Simply hold your finger in the front of the airbrush like this, and if you push down, you'll see I'll get bubbles. What's that doing is forcing the air, instead of going out the tip, it forces it to come up into my cup. And you'll see a lot of guys mix paint this way. I don't do that personally because I don't get good results. But what this will do is backwash any debris that may have come loose in the cleaning process. And then I'll just spray some thinner, full blast, right into my paper towel. Again, I'll just do this over and over again. Loosen anything up. You can even pull a trigger and just kind of do this action right here. And then I just dump out my thinner on my paper towel. And we are good for a session of airbrushing. So that's it for my first, I guess you call it tutorial, little airbrush maintenance. The next one I'll show you how I prime. I mentioned I don't prime my kits very often. On the GNX, so I'm going to go ahead and prime it just to show how I do it. So thanks for watching, and stay tuned for the next one.